Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome to a surprise review. For today, I figured I'd surprise you guys with Ant-Man, the original Ant-Man from 2015, just before the new coming Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is releasing this coming weekend. As I already said, Ant-Man was released in 2015 and was directed by Peyton Reed and stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, and Michael Douglas. The story is, it's essentially a heist movie. Hank Pym was the creator of the Pym particle, it's called, which allows the Ant-Man suit to work, which means you can shrink and grow in size. I believe it's something about like splitting the particles between atoms, something along those lines. But like I said, it's essentially a heist movie, so Hank Pym has gone away from the spotlight. He keeps his suit to himself, keeps the secrets to the Pym particle all to himself, but one of his proteges, who is the villain of this movie, decides he wants to make his own Ant-Man suit, and there's where our movie starts. Michael Douglas's Hank Pym recruits Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, and basically gives him the Ant-Man suit, tells him to go steal the Yellow Jacket, which is the new Ant-Man suit, destroy all the research, so that way they cannot make a new evil army of just, well, Ant-Man. To start right into the positives, guys, how could I not? Paul Rudd, #1, guys. I love Paul Rudd and anything he does. Sometimes even when I just kind of forget, if I haven't seen a Paul Rudd movie in a while, I'm like, you know, Paul Rudd's alright, he's okay. But once you watch a Paul Rudd movie, even if he's just like a cameo in it or a supporting character, you realize how much you love the guy. He's super charismatic, but in like an awkward, clunky kind of way, because he never plays like a hero, right? He's always just kind of a screw up. But his comedic timing is so perfect, you can't help but love him in everything that he's in, and this movie is no different. That's just Paul Rudd, and he's fantastic at it, and I love him in this role. Next is the supporting cast. The supporting cast is actually really solid too. Like I said, Evangeline Lilly, who's mostly known for Lost fame, Michael Douglas from everything, everyone knows Michael Douglas, even some of the more supporting characters, because those are like the main supporting characters, but even some of like the lesser supporting characters, like a Michael Pena, who's always hilarious. I love that guy and everything that he does. I think he is a fantastic comedic actor. T.I., who was like a hip-hop artist back in like the early 2000s, I don't really know if he does music anymore, but he's in this movie. He's actually pretty solid. He doesn't have a whole lot to do in it, but he's just like, their trio is like Michael Pena, him, and this next guy, David Dastmalchian, I believe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not. Then this one, he has a bit of a goofy Russian accent, but I actually found him pretty funny in this. A lot of his one-liners really hit home with me, and I thought they were pretty hilarious. And that trio of Dastmalchian, T.I., and Michael Pena, I thought they worked really well together. And lastly, of course, Corey Stoll as the villain. The whole villain thing I'll get to later. I'll say his performance was good, it was solid, he was menacing when he had to be menacing. I thought his motives were good, but the villain character as a whole, I'll get to later. Next is this movie is hilarious. This movie is so funny. Like I said, when you have people with comedic power, just these two right here, Paul Rudd and Michael Pena, you know it's going to be a funny movie. These guys kill it in everything they do. Even if they're in crappier movies, they're still the best part. They still make you laugh no matter what. I say it's right up there with some of like the funniest movies in the MCU, and you can actually say that considering the MCU with the new coming Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to hit 20 movies, that you can say like it's up there because you have a lot to choose from. It's up there honestly with things like Guardians of the Galaxy, or the two Guardians of the Galaxy's movies actually. I thought both of them were hilarious. Ant-Man's definitely up there. I think the strongest thing it has going for it in regards to storytelling is its comedic parts. You know, I think the fact that the movie's so funny is what saved it from being a much lesser movie. It was kind of just okay, but with the comedy in it always being spot on, I feel like that really did bring the movie up a lot. Next, and that's Michael Pena's stories. Whenever he's telling a story of how he got some sort of information, it's flipping off to the other actors and actresses, but it's Michael Pena narrating as well as Michael Pena doing the voice work with the characters just mouthing along. Anytime that happens in this movie, I thought it was hilarious. It's just so funny to me. It's something that's so simple, but just the way that his character talks so fast, so witty, using just this weird slang, those parts in the movies are friggin' hilarious. And next is just the Ant-Man vision as a whole. What I mean by Ant-Man vision is when he shrinks to be Ant-Man, the way that the world is portrayed around him is fantastic. Everything's so much bigger. The bullet time, like when he's getting shot at, him jumping through like bullet holes in glass, and then like, you know, being down with the ants like underground, then popping back up, and all that stuff. Like, all of the Ant-Man stuff, the Ant-Man action when he is like being the ant part of Ant-Man is fantastic. They did a fantastic job on it. Next is kind of like the heart of the movie, I guess I could say, because the movie doesn't have a whole lot of heart except for in these parts, and that is the father-daughter dynamics in this movie, because Michael Douglas and Evangeline Lilly, they play a father-daughter duo, as well as Paul Rudd and the younger girl in this movie, Cassie. I know that's their character's name. Yeah, so those two dynamics right there are both really well done. They hit home a lot. Paul Rudd, he's a screw up. He's been in and out of prison. He's a thief, and his ex-wife is now with this new guy, and they're kind of raising his daughter, and that's all he wants is just to get back into her life. And she is just the sweetest little thing. It feels like they really do have a real life bond, and that to me was so sweet. As well as the one between Evangeline Lilly and Michael Douglas. I thought a lot of those moments that were emotional, and I don't want to get into any plot details, but they're emotional moments, the friction between them, why they're not as close as they used to be, and a lot of the story moments, that whole story arc with them honestly is fantastic, and that's where a lot of the heart of the movie comes from. Those were both done very well. The whole mentor-protege thing where it's like Darren Cross, who's Corey Stoll's Yellow Jacket, the villain, and then Michael Douglas, how it was, he was training him, he was always his mentor, he was raising him up, and then he kind of pushed him away, and that's what forced Corey Stoll to create the Yellow Jacket and do his own thing. That whole part of the story too worked very well for me as well. And very quickly, the last positive on this list is the end credit scenes. There are 2 in this, I believe. Yeah, there's 2 in them. There's like a mid-credit scene and an end credit scene. Stay for both of those. Even though it's like, 3 years past that and all of these have been fleshed out already, they, at the time especially, were like key to the MCU, like the forthcoming films. And I still think they're really good today, and honestly, seeing them made me want to watch the next few movies in the MCU, so stay for those end credit scenes if you've never seen this movie before. Down the middle ground, like I said, I would get to later, is the villain, Corey Stoll's villain, Darren Cross, Yellow Jacket. Where do I go with him? Honestly, I couldn't put him in the negatives because I feel like his performance was too good to be put into the negatives, but the motives are good. I understand where he's coming from, and I feel like that's all right. But the performance, he kind of goes from menacing to over the top to almost kind of crybaby-ish to kind of just like a kid on the playground who's like, my toy's better than your toy. Like, so he's kind of hit or miss. Depends on the person that you are, and that's why I feel like it's in the middle ground. Some people like these villains. I thought he was just okay. I probably would have put him in the positive, but I feel like a lot of people don't like the type of villain and they feel like they've seen him 110 times before, and you wouldn't be wrong. So that's where the villain kind of lands in the middle ground here. And the negatives, it's kind of a short list, but they are haymakers, I'm telling you. The first one is I feel like I've seen this movie all before, and that's because we have Iron Man. The very first Iron Man, 7 years before this movie released, pretty much the same thing, just reverse roles. Instead of it being Obadiah Stane and Tony Stark, and Obadiah creating it and Tony replicating it, it's like if the role reversed, essentially. In this one, it's Tony Stark creates it in the first Iron Man, Tony Stark creates it, Obadiah Stane replicates it. You go to Ant-Man, Michael Douglas's Hank Pym creates it, Corey Stoll's Darren Cross replicates it. It's pretty much the same thing. Hero, villain, with the same powers, copying one or the other because the other one won't give up the secrets because it's too dangerous to get into the wrong hands. The guy comes off as good, he's a nice guy, the villain, but secretly he's a villain and he's causing all this mayhem. You've seen it all before, guys, so that's where this movie kind of falters a lot, is the fact that it's been done, and actually probably even a couple times in the MCU. And the other one is the fact that the movie really isn't anything spectacular. It's nothing too flashy. It has its comedic power going for it, it has its cast going for it, cool things like the Ant-Man vision, but it was nothing new or groundbreaking in the superhero genre, in the film genre, in the MCU at all. There was nothing that you hadn't already seen in previous films, and nothing you haven't seen a couple times again even after this movie. So like I said, the negatives, there's only 2 and that's it, but they are heavy ones. The fact that the whole movie seems like it's just a rehash with different powers than the first Iron Man, and the fact that there's literally nothing new. It's just a heist movie, except the guy can turn small, and it does nothing new for the MCU, did nothing new for the superhero genre. It's kind of just another movie in there, honestly, and it falls more so to the middle or low end of the MCU for me, honestly, which kind of sucks because I really do like a lot of those things that I just mentioned in this movie. So to summarize, guys, Ant-Man, well, Paul Rudd is fantastic. The supporting cast is great. The movie is super funny. The stories that Michael Pena tells, his character anyway in this, are great. I find they're absolutely hilarious. The Ant-Man vision is fantastic. The father-daughter dynamic and the mentor-protege dynamics in this movie are very well done, and the end and mid-credit scenes are both fantastic. The middle ground, the villain, kind of wishy-washy, depends on the type of person you are, if you're gonna like them or not. The negatives are that you've seen this movie before with the first Iron Man, that's like the prime example, but I'm sure there are elements of it pulled from other MCU movies, and then there's really nothing new or spectacular here, guys. All in all, like I said, Ant-Man is good, it's funny, it's nothing crazy, it's nothing new, you've seen it before, so it kind of lays in the middle. Like I said, it's more towards the lower half of the MCU for me, but I mean, everyone's different, guys. This might be right at the top for you. So I will be giving the first Ant-Man a solid 7 out of 10. So guys, if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know, what did you think of the first Ant-Man? How do you feel it stacks up against the other first solo movies in the MCU? And do you think it was a good way to kick off a new possible trilogy? And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.